Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the St. Mark's Kids Chat. Today we are in Mark chapter 8, verses 31 through 38, and it's about when Jesus predicted his death and then taught about commitment. So I'm going to start by reading a couple of the verses from our lesson. So it says that Jesus began to teach that the Son of Man, he's referring to himself, was going to suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, and that eventually he was going to be killed, and that he would rise again after 3 days. And so Peter took him aside, remember, one of his disciples, and said to him, "Oh no, what are you talking about?" What they referred to as rebuking him, right? And saying, "No, you can't die. What's going on?" But Jesus, guess what he did to Peter?
What?
He turned around and he looked at his disciples and he rebuked Peter, which means that he was very firm with him, right? He said to him, "Get behind me, Satan. You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns." So let me ask you something. Are our thoughts the same as God's thoughts?
No.
No, they aren't. They aren't. And so let me ask you something. If there is somebody who's, say, for example, in charge of the military, say that they're like a general or something like that, do they generally know a lot more about the big picture of things than maybe some of the other guys at the bottom? Usually, right? Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about that for a minute. We have heroes in our life, right? Mm-hmm. So give me some examples of who are some heroes. Like it could be even superheroes or anything like that. Who are some examples of superheroes?
Well, like
Jesus. Jesus is an example. Is a great example of a superhero. Yes, but other people just like in general. The Flash or Superman or Batman, things like that. Or even many people feel like folks who are in our military are also heroes, right? And a lot of like I just using the example, a lot of folks who are generals or commanders or really high up in the military, they can see, like we said, a bigger picture of what's going to hapen. Now let me ask you something. Do you guys think that these guys sometimes have to make some hard decisions in life, right? So, and does that sometimes affect their lives, right? Do you think that anybody in the military has ever lost their life? Yes, they have. They have. So I want you to think about that because it's very similar to what Jesus did for us, right? So in this lesson, in this Mark chapter 8 that we're reading about, Jesus said something else to him, or said something else to his disciples. He says, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me and for the gospel will save it." So he was basically telling them that, there are times where, we're going to have to make hard decisions, right? So I have a little demonstration that we're going to do down here. So why don't you guys come on down? Alrighty. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to pretend that, that this water right here is Jesus, okay? And his ideas and things like that. And then this red one is going to represent our ideas and things that we want to do in life, right? So sometimes we always hope that what Jesus wants, is always what our ideas are, right? So we're always hoping that, oh yeah, it'll mix just fine, right? Did it mix together and create something new? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're hoping that it mixes. However, I want to show you another example over here. I'm going to pull this back. I'm going to put on some gloves too because sometimes this can be a little bit hot. So it can, sometimes. So, and a little bit messy. So, as I mentioned before, we always hope that our ideas and Jesus's ideas are always the same, but we all know that that doesn't always happen sometimes, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend that this hot water right here, this red water, is actually our own personal thoughts and ideas and the things that we want out of life. Now let me ask you something. Are the things that we want in life always right thinking? No. Do we sin sometimes in our thinking? Yeah, right? And do you remember in that lesson, it's, Jesus said, get away, Satan. Remember how he said that to Peter? Because Peter's thoughts were actually kind of like Satan using Peter in a way to say, no, I don't want you to accomplish this, Jesus dying on the cross and raising after 3 days. Because do we know that has to happen, right? We do know that, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this little card over the top of it here, and I'm going to put it just like this. I'm going to turn it over here. And I'm going to set it. We created a section. And now I'm going to put it on top of here. Okay? So I want you to look at these two things really closely. I'm going to pull the card out and see what happens. Look at what happened. What happened here? Did it mix together like the other one did? No. Look this is still red and this is still blue. So if this represents our thoughts and ideas, and then this represents Jesus's thoughts and ideas, do they always mix?
No.
No, they don't always mix, right? So Jesus, he sacrificed a lot for us, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did. He has such love for us that he died on the cross, right? Mm-hmm. And he knew that plan had to happen. So even though in our own human brains, we sometimes think that, oh no, like dying is a bad thing, right? No. So Peter was like, oh no, Jesus, you can't die. What do you mean, right? So in our own human thoughts and our own selfishness, right, we didn't want Jesus to die, right? But Jesus had bigger plans than that. He knew that his plans had to happen, which is why he was so stern with Peter at the time. He knew that he had to die on the cross, right? And so we selfishly up here like Peter with this red sin up here, we always want our own way, right? Mm-hmm. So let me ask you something. If we're going to apply this to our own lives, are there things that we can do to be loyal to Jesus in return? Yeah. What can we do?
We can help him, pray to him, read the gospel.
Yes, and we can also treat others, right, the way that Jesus would, right? Was Jesus sacrificing something for us? Mm-hmm. Yes, Jesus sacrificed a lot for us. So can we show that we are followers of Jesus by sacrificing for other people? Mm-hmm. What are some ways that you can sacrifice for other people?
Like if somebody did something bad and then you say, I'll take the punishment instead.
Right, yeah, because that's what Jesus did for us, right? What about playing video games or something like that, and it's your turn, but your friend just showed up next door and they wanted to come over and play the video game, and even though it was your turn, what would be the right thing to do to sacrifice in that situation? You give him your turn maybe, right? So I want you to think about those things. I want you to think about that there are things in life where we can reflect Jesus's love by sacrificing some things and showing other people that we are willing to love them and, put our selfish ideas aside about what we want for our own selves and all of that. And what else can we do, right? So in order to follow Jesus, might be some things that look like it's really fun to do, but it's actually sinful. Would it be a good idea to not do those things as a sacrifice because we love Jesus so much? Yeah, absolutely. So just remember that our thoughts and Jesus's thoughts and ideas don't always mix, but we can always remember that his thoughts and ideas are right, and we should be committed to what Jesus wants us to do. All right, everybody, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.